This is LNG Cast, and I am Artist Koban. Let's talk some D&D. This is Akavide. It is one of two planes that were once one. They were divided in an event that I have not come up with the name for yet. This video is going to serve as a campaign diary for the first two sessions of our D&D game. The first one ended in a TPK. It was a one-shot. I'm not really worried about the fact that it ended in a TPK. The world of Akavide is heavily inspired by, well, Dark Sun and Middle Eastern folklore and history. The players are rapscallions, slaves, and other such misbegottens. As just kind of talked about, we're going to have to give a little bit of a content warning. I will provide it at the beginning of each of these videos. This world dives into topics such as slavery and death and just general human rights violations. Pleasant, right? However, this world is not all bad. Let me tell you about the players. The players in the preamble were a dwarf and a Goliath. Not typically a normal set of people in this world. The Goliaths come from Tarki, and the dwarfs will either come from Unalak or Ushing Vagush. If you recognize either of those names, you are a man of culture. However, this world is brutal. And it's fittingly just that its brutal nature does not allow heroes to exist. There's prophecies of heroes and legends that claim that one day a legendary hero will bring back the era of green. But that is most likely a lie. There was never an era of green on this plane. Again, I'm not going to get into all the details about the world, but the history is pretty much that. The players were hired by a lady named Saphira. She is kind of the crowned princess of the Al-Sham Caliphate. I believe it's the Caliphate. I could be misremembering. She is the elder sister to the current Caliph. Either that or the daughter, I do not remember which. And she looks a lot like a Cleopatra kind of character. She is a genius tactician and a even more brilliant diplomat. She secretly runs a lot of the stuff behind the web. Players do not know this. It's very much meta knowledge. The world of Akavide is full of this sort of stuff. People constantly making plays against political rivals, so on. She hired the players in order to find a necklace inside of a dungeon. She had acquired an onyx one that would take her to a silver and sapphire necklace. She knows what it does, the players don't. Well, they were slaves and they were purchased by her, so they didn't really have too much of a choice. Plus, she was offering their freedom if they would do this for her. So, why not say yes? They agreed and went off to find it. However, because this is a one-shot, we had plenty of time at the end of the session, so we rolled for a random encounter. That random encounter ended up causing a TPK. It was a one-shot, I wasn't worried about it. And this was originally to test this dungeon for another group, another campaign. That campaign never ended up happening due to scheduling conflicts. Yay! But I decided to pick up this world one more time and follow in what happened in that one shot. So, that's what we're doing. In the last session, the players were a dark elf who was trying to figure out why the elves of his people have stopped worshipping Lolth. Little does he know, but Lolth doesn't exist in this realm. She is trapped in the realm of the frontier. Like I said, it's not super relevant, but it is relevant to certain factors. Nobody knows, well, almost nobody knows about the frontier and its existence. However, those who do know can and have traveled to it. But for the most part, it's a moot point and, like I said, will not really be brought up. The second most important player, just kidding, the second player that we'll talk about is a dwarf. In my world, it's heavily inspired by Dwarf Fortress, as you can tell by the name of the two dwarven kingdoms, Unalak and Ushengvagush. It is quite literally Ushengvagush, the one played by Krug Smash. If you have not seen his videos, I don't know why I think that mine would, convince you, but I highly recommend them. They're really good. If you like that kind of stuff. Plus, his art is beautiful. Ushengvagush is the capital. I don't recall where the dwarf player's from, but he's possibly from Ushengvagush. Wouldn't surprise me. Moving on. In my world, dwarves can have moods. Oh yeah, that's not that crazy. When I say moods, I mean the Dwarf Fortress moods. Moods can force a dwarf into a kind of fugue state where they become overwhelmed with the desire to create magical artifacts or just works of artifice. That could be anything from a chair made out of emerald to a whip covered in cabochons of dwarven bone. Obviously, the craft dwarf ship is of the highest quality, and that's the most important part. But this is how the dwarves become who they are. Many of them will have moods after 14, but not before. Our dwarf went into a dark mood. We don't know exactly which, we still need to talk about it, but whatever mood it was caused him to use dwarven bone to craft dice of the highest dwarf craft dwarf ship. However, he ran out, and since then he's been a little bit insane. Mechanically, this is a dwarf with the Bard's class, and he is currently one of my favorite players to listen to, as whenever he casts his spells, he shouts, "Time to consult the bones!" The last player that we have in this campaign is a monk. He uses a custom subclass known as the Mystics of Nog. The Mystics of Nog are heavily inspired by the divination wizards. The divination wizard, if you know about it, well, if you know your D&D, has the ability to kind of adjust other people's rolls as well as their own, using portent dice. The Mystics of Nog can do the same thing. They have the ability to kind of just say, "Nope, I win. and I love it. So I made a monk that can do the same thing. Incredibly overpowered? Possibly. We will see. Super fun? It's been fun so far. Minus the fact that the player is leaning into the side of the Mystic of Nog, where they don't really want Fate's attention. They're sort of just doing whatever Fate designs. Which, in this world, Fate is a living being. Yeah. More or less, that is the world as the players know it. And that is the group. They fought in the Blood Pits, where they fought a Manticore, 5 Desert Crabs, and 2 Lions. The dice favored them. Unfortunately. But also fortunately. Amir Farquaad, yes, that is his name. The party chose it. I went along with it. I let them choose it. I thought it would be fun. So, they named him Amir Farquaad. And now my drow dervish won't stop referring to Saphira as Fiona. I mean, Amir Farquaad was flirting with her, so I walked into that. They fought in the Colosseum and won, not exactly their victory, like their freedom, but they won a good spoil and were able to pay off a lot of their slave debt. Saphira saw this and saw good fighters. She purchased them and offered the dwarf a dice as well as his freedom. She also offered the rest of them their freedom if they could go collect that silver necklace that the previous party had lost. So, that is where we ended the session. A few last things I want to talk about. I do plan on continuing this series and talking about each session afterwards. However, I don't believe that it'll all be that interesting or that they'll be as long as this one. So I will be including a little bit of lore in each session, each video. Something that maybe the players hear or that that I think is just interesting. Things such as maybe little anecdotes from NPCs, little quotes. Not sure exactly how well this will go, but I'm excited. The world of Akavide is full of mystery, and it's heavily inspired by the other Middle Eastern fantasies, everything from 1001 Arabian Nights to Dark Sun. I have taken many liberties with this world, and I am proud of it. Thank you for listening, and I hope that more people watch this. This is primarily for me, but if even one person gets some enjoyment out of this, I'll keep making them. Well, I get a little enjoyment out of it, so I guess it's already done. Thank you, and I hope that you like it. LNG Cast out.